Hi guys, this is Nathara of CrowSong Lodge, and we're asking the question today, is Doreen Virtue a false prophet? Today I'm here with my friends Heather Woodward and Maria Isoldde, and we're going to be talking about Doreen Virtue, her conversion to fundamentalist Christianity, and her previous career in the New Age movement, as well as her new post, an A to Z list of New Age practices to avoid and why. First, let's all introduce ourselves. Let's start with you, Heather.
My name is Heather. I have a cold, so that's why I sound like I have tissues up my nose, because I probably do. And I am a tarot reader and a podcaster, and I do stuff, lots of stuff. And yeah, that's it.
Hi, my name is Maria Isoldde, and I'm a tarot card reader, witch, and I have a YouTube channel and a website called Maria Isoldde.
And again, I'm Nathara of CrowSong. I also go by Charlene, and I am a professional tarot reader, professional witch, and all-around strange person with many opinions. And again, today we are talking about whether or not Doreen Virtue is a false prophet. Now, just to give you an overview of the situation, Doreen Virtue is most well known for her very quick and mass production of really light-hearted oracle decks and certificate programs, mostly based around angels, unicorns, fairies, and goddesses. She also has courses on angelology, angel card readings, and becoming a fairyologist. She also, right before her conversion, had a 50-acre property in Hawaii with her third husband, Michael. And two of her children, Charles Virtue and Melissa Virtue, are also professional psychics in the industry. And she was she had an exclusive contract with Hay House, who published a whole ton of her material. And then back in April of 2017, she had her on her YouTube channel. She was doing weekly divinations and forecasts using her own decks, and she came out on her channel with a 3-hour-long video talking about how she had converted to Christianity. She had seen a vision of Jesus himself, and that anyone who practiced any New Age skills or traditions was actually being lied to by devils and demons and doing the work of the devil themselves, and we were all going to hell if we didn't stop, and that she had found the one true truth, and if you didn't follow the letter and law of the Bible, you were cursed to eternal damnation, in a 3-hour-long rant that was then deleted a few days later. And the entire community just kind of lost their minds. And it has been a messy downward spiral ever since.
I have some opinions. First of all, I'm not being judgy, but I'm going to totally be judgy. She had 3 husbands. Like, what happened there?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
not entirely sure. Her second husband died.
Okay, yeah, I did hear about that, and she was with the third husband within 3 months of his death.
Yes. And she kept her second husband's name, and her third husband has taken her name, which is her second husband's name.
Virtue.
Yes.
And how many children does she have?
At least 2.
There might be some secret ones.
Yeah. I only ran across 2 when I was doing my research. So. Okay.
And how are they handle the transition? Are they like, peace them out, or are they like, we're godly too now?
No, they the two that I found are still New Age practitioners, still teaching about angels. Charles Virtue is still teaching angel courses and doing decks, and Melissa Virtue is more into dream interpretation and sacred dance and those kind of things instead. Neither one of them in their current web presences mention Doreen at all.
Wow. Okay.
So, like, do you know if they mentioned her before, and then after her conversion, they just, like, removed her from their website or any mention of her? Like, hey, I'm her son or I'm a daughter?
Yes, they all worked very closely together in business, which is how I found them in the first place. And then afterwards, there's just no mention. There's no mention on her site of them and none on their sites of her.
So there could be some sort of rift between mom and children.
Yes, there could be. Or they could just be professionally ignoring each other. And then still having family dinner every Sunday. I don't know.
I'm super curious and gossipy. Like, so what happened to her mention on the island?
Her animals have been rehomed. She's now living in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest, taking care of her elderly parents. And she took all of the non-livestock animals with her there.
So all the dogs.
Yeah, well, maybe some cats too. But all the sheep and the cow and the horses and the llama and the pigs had to stay in Hawaii.
Oh.
Yes.
Did she say why she moved?
Yes, she did. She said that the reason she moved is because after her conversion, she refused to accept any of the royalties from her decks anymore. And she had already blown through her entire life savings maintaining the rescue ranch anyways. And so it was just going to be completely impossible for her to maintain the payments on the property, let alone take care of all the animals. So what was really curious to me is that with all of the money that she's made from all the various decks, all the millions of books, and the workshops and classes and speaking opportunities and TV appearances and her weekly TV show and her YouTube channel, that she wasn't able to afford her living expenses. On top of that, according to her current information that she's putting out there, she has a ginormous IRS debt that she has to pay as well. So not only was she unable to afford her lifestyle, but she also wasn't paying her taxes.
Wow.
I hate to sound like judgmental here, but is it just you or me? Like maybe you're feeling this too, but does this not sound like and I'm not saying anything bad about the spiritual community, but isn't this like very common? Like the whole like, ignore the material and just work on the spiritual, and then like because you're working so much on the spiritual that like the material just goes to shit. And you're like, what's going on? It's like, well, maybe you should have paid your rent, lady, instead of like meditated for 4 hours. And that's what I'm hearing. It's like she worked so much on this and that, and then like she owes the IRS, and I was like, well, maybe you should have thought, hey, maybe I shouldn't, have the ranch and all that stuff. Maybe I shouldn't have been so, I just want something beautiful to wake up to because it's so spiritual and it warms my heart. And I'm like, no, lady, how about you get a room with less windows or something? I don't know. You save more money on the air conditioning. The air does not escape.
It's really curious because in a lot of the criticism she has had for the reason why her products are still available through a Hay House and stuff like that, because she did have several products that came out after she converted and started denouncing those products. The contract details she mentioned, if they are to be taken at face value, are really not fair to the author at all. So I wonder if it's a combination of not having good business sense to begin with and then not managing her money, which is like kind of just a damn shame, really. But it wouldn't surprise me after listening to several interviews with her now, because she obviously just didn't have a head for anything that she felt was negative in life and would staunchly ignore it.
So the IRS is negative in her eyes, so I could see where she'd be like, I gotta feed my 17 cattle. I don't have time for the IRS.
You hire an accountant, so then this does not happen.
Exactly. And so, but on top of that, like I said, I kind of think her contracts with Hay House in the first place probably weren't very favorable.
So what's up with her husband? Does he have a job?
None that I've heard mentioned, but I haven't heard anyone say that he doesn't.
Because I know he was traveling around the world with her for a while there. She was doing speaking gigs and stuff, and they were visiting castles and stuff.
Yeah, from what she's mentioned of her lifestyle, I would assume he doesn't.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to judge there, but I'm judging. I'm secretly judging.
Well, you know, like Doreen says in her her blog posts, we are not saying these things to be judgmental. We're just seeking to educate.
God told me to say this, Doreen. I'm sorry, but
So, just for
your management sucks.
Some stats purposes, Doreen is now 60 years old. She just turned 60 last year, and she'll be turning 61 this year. And she has over 50 publications that have been published through Hay House, and they've been translated into 38 different languages.
Wow.
So she's got money, because like every time they translate it, that's a new contract. You know that, right?
Yes, absolutely. And according to the interview that I listened to, the very, very long interview that I listened to, she has absolutely no rights to any of the licenses that were sold in other countries at all. And she says that she's not sure she's even receiving royalties. And that phrase right there, the "I'm not sure I've ever received royalties for them," tells me that her contracts are no good and she's not even familiar with them.
She doesn't even look at them.
Yeah, because she doesn't even know.
Any contract, it doesn't matter. You should always read and get a lawyer.
Right?
And that sounds to me like if she was, again, very stereotypical, like, oh, it'll just like work itself out. No, lady, you gotta read.
How do you not know, though? I mean, that's the first thing you do is read your contract, and she's done such a body of work. You would think at like deck 10, you could be like, hey, look, I want a raise. Hey, I need more money. Hey, I have these certain parameters that I want. I mean, I would.
Now, Doreen's original background educationally is that she is a psychologist. And she started out in publishing. She has 2 psychology books that she published originally outside of Hay House, specializing in eating disorders.
Oh, sorry.
Did you have words to go with that?
So much about her personality.
Yeah. That's how I kind of feel too. One of those books was called Losing Your Pounds of Pain.
Okay.
The other one was called Constant Cravings. And then she wrote another book about time management, which she didn't remember the title of.
Well, yeah. That makes so much sense. Should be called Where Did the Time Go? Because that's more apropos.
Right? But I love that she didn't even remember, like, the title. Like, you don't remember that? Okay, that's cool.
What I'm getting from this, and I'm just going to shoot from the hip here, but from the titles of her books and how she is responding to money, it seems like she had some sort of traumatic event happen in her life, and then she just disassociated and shut down and created Doreen Virtue, the fairy lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound about right.
She said the way she grew up with New Age teachings, primarily based in Christian Science and religious science, based on the teachings of Phineas Quimby, who is widely regarded as a scammer and a hoax and a faux faith healer.
Oh, nice.
So that's her family background. And then she had a dream one day about her grandmother, who told her to study Pythagoras. And that got her into numerology and tarot, and that's when her real New Age stuff started. But she's always been scared of horror movies, scared about reading of fallen angels, scared of any kind of negativity or any kind of dark material whatsoever. So even when she started reading tarot, she removed all the tarot cards in the deck that had any kind of dark connotations to them. And she said that left her with like 10 tarot cards to read with.
Oh, wow.
10?
What the heck?
Yeah.
10?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's not really reading much.
No, but like, we had all talked previously about how none of us had really bought into the Doreen Virtue hype because she was just too fluffy. She was just too love and light, and she didn't acknowledge the darker side of reality, or that things weren't all love and rainbows all the time. And so when she said that in the interview, I was like, okay, I wasn't being biased. That was actually a real accurate perception.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused though. Like, what 10 cards did she keep? Because there are a lot of good cards in the tarot, and there's a lot to choose from there. So, like what? The Sun, the Two of Cups, the Three of Cups?
Well,
what else?
The Two of Cups can have negative connotations to it, so I imagine that was gone.
You think so?
There's 14 cards in that cup suit, so we're going to have to get rid of some of them.
Okay. Three of Cups then. We'll keep the Three of Cups.
I mean, we're just going to eliminate all the wands, all the swords.
Yeah, all of the wands and all the
all
swords.
the pentacles.
Gone.
So now we're picking from the major arcana and the cups. And it still leaves us 36 cards. So...
Oh, wow.
Right? So, like, yeah, it's not a lot of cards to pick from. So, yeah, anyone that could be, like, even reversed meanings or negative, like, we got to get rid of them.
Huh.
It just leaves me sort of, like, dumbfounded, because for some people that were, like, all in shock that she converted, I was like, I mean, come on. Like, she's even said this. I mean, all her stuff is fluffy bunny. This is just like a hop, a skip, and a jump for her.
Well, really, yeah, for me it was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But after listening to this interview about how much she hated all the negative stuff, I was like, so Christianity, huh? Yeah, and here she's talking about how she was too scared about reading about fallen angels in horror movies. But she said that as a point of, like, this is why I didn't know about devils and demons and the trickery and stuff, and that's why I was completely oblivious to it all.
How is she able to read the Old Testament? Again, that's all that is.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, now she's all about the demons and the devils and the trickery, and she's hardcore into all the damnation and the doom and the hellfire, because apparently someone sat her down and was like, let's break this down. For what spurred on her conversion is that her current husband number 3, Michael, was a pretty strict Christian when they got together.
Oh.
And she always considered her a pretty lightweight Christian herself. And she started doing research for the Jesus cards. This is what she called them.
What's the Jesus cards?
Yeah. I forgot to look up which deck that was, but it was a deck that came out right after her conversion. She had never actually sat down and read the Bible. And so in doing the research for those Jesus cards, she actually sat down and read it. And that's when she was like, oh crap, what am I doing?
Oh, the loving words of Jesus. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah, that one.
So, loving words is kind of an oxymoron, because if you read the Bible, there's not a lot of love.
Yeah.
There's a lot of judgment and condemnation, which is what she is now perpetuating, but I'm not seeing the love part. And then there's this whole thing about him being, New Testament, there's this whole thing about him being, nailed to a cross.
Yeah. Yeah, not, like I said, not the fluffiest reading. It gets kind of dark.
Well, there's a video that I did recently for my opinion on Doreen Virtue and her conversion and all that jazz. And I had somebody comment on the video saying that, that Jesus' wrath is just as real as his love, and Doreen only worked with the love aspect, and now she sees the wrath and all blah, blah, blah. And I'm there thinking to myself, okay, so she doesn't want to do the dark stuff. She's afraid of the dark stuff, but yet the Christian dark stuff, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. Like I don't get that. I don't understand that. It's like, oh yeah, like I don't like doing any of the dark stuff. I had to take all these cards from the tarot deck because they're just evil. But yet hearing about a man who sacrifices his kid because God tells him to, that's okay. That's fine. That's perfectly within reason. And I'm like, really? Are you serious?
Doreen before was afraid of all the dark stuff. Doreen now is into all the dark stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and in this interview, the guy asked her, he was like, oh yeah, doing divination and oracle reading and channeling and witchcraft. And she was like, no, I never did witchcraft. No. And he was like, well, yeah, you did. And she was like, no, I have, not the real witchcraft, like the divination I did, but not witchcraft. And he was like, what do you consider witchcraft? And she was like, well, I never did spells or incantations or potions or anything like that. I was just too scared to even touch it. I never even read Harry Potter.
Oh, she's missing out then.
If you look at the article, now we're going to jump over there real quick, and look at the entries that she wrote about each specific item. She says about Harry Potter, she just cites a Bible verse. It just says, these seemingly innocent novels introduce children and adults to witchcraft, makes it sound harmless and inviting. Whether the author intended it or not, reading or watching Harry Potter is advocating of a practice that the Bible says is detestable to God. Which, I mean, if you've read Harry Potter, it does not sound harmless and inviting. Like his parents were murdered.
She never read the books, because, try book 4, dude. There's nothing fluffy about that book, and 5 is even worse, and yeah.
Yeah, there's a turn after 3. 4 is my favorite, but yeah.
It's kind of a descent into crazy land. Yeah, it gets real dark real quick.
Yeah, which is kind of like a weird thing for her to say that, like, yeah. But a lot of those entries came from this other website that she mentioned in her interview as well, called gotquestions.org, which is obviously like a Bible-based Christian fundamentalist website.
So she's just copying other people's thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of this is just what she's been told and what she's hearing, and not exactly her personal
opinion,
homegrown opinion.
Or she's not even like allowed to have her own opinion or to like, think it out. It's just like, oh, it says this, so that's what it is.
Yeah, and one of the things that really struck me in the interview is that she said that when she was studying New Age stuff, she was always seeking the answer, always seeking happiness, always looking for the truth. But now she's not seeking anymore. Because she knows where the one truth is, and she has all the instructions laid out for her, and so she doesn't need to ask questions. In fact, she knows that asking questions is wrong.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that is the sales pitch.
Oh, wow. That's sad. That's really sad.
It's just making me think that she's giving up. It's not like when I see her videos, and I do watch them sometimes because like I like train wrecks, so like there's a few that I've watched that like her Jesus-y ones where she's with this other lady and I don't know her name, but she's really annoying because she says things about the Bible that I know absolutely are not true because I was raised Baptist, so I know the Bible and I know about this stuff, and I've studied it outside of that because I need to know. And it's just an absolute wrong way of interpreting the Bible. And I watch and I see Doreen, and she says she's happy, but she just looks lifeless, and she looks tired, and she looks defeated.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, actually, there's another comment on my video. The lady was saying how she says that Christianity basically is like mind control. It's like a cult, and to be honest, like I don't think that that's the case all the time, because I know that I've known a lot of Christians in my life that are great people that are not all just follow the leader and that's it, but. I mean, it can get that way. It can get to the point where you're just sort of like a deer in headlights, and you don't have, like the wheel you have given up the wheel of the car, and somebody else is driving for you. And to a certain degree, that's like nice. It's like, oh, I can get the stress out. But at the same time, you can't decide if you want to get out of that car, and that is what she's at right now. Mm-hmm. She's at that point where she can't.
Yeah.
At least that's where I'm thinking that she's so. In other words, for me, the mind control on her is so deep right now, or so ingrained. One, because it's new for her, like it's really new for her. So she's sort of like still in that I still like it, I can still agree with it. And the other is the fact that she doesn't know where to go. She's already said it publicly. She's already gotten all this hate to a certain degree in hate, not all the time, but hate. Like, I don't hate her. I don't even think there's something, like, I don't disagree with her. I'm just like, whatever, that's your thing, that's your thing. But the fact that she's gotten all this not so good publicity, if she were to say, like, hey, I realize that this is shit, sorry, or I changed my mind, that could blow up even worse on her. Like, that could even be worse on her person. That's her digging her grave a little bit further, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, I can understand the not wanting to think about it. Life is freaking complicated,
Yeah.
Ethics is complicated, and socializing with other humans is complicated, and if you really think about it hard, going day from day is really complicated. But acknowledging that complication and interfacing with it is part of the responsibility. At least taking responsibility for your part in that, and I can understand wanting to check out for a while, though.
Yeah.
I get it. I think what bothers me about it, I mean, perfectly fine if she wants to believe in a dogma that makes it so she doesn't have to think, great, she's older and she's getting tired and she has no money and she realized that she fucked up. So she doesn't trust herself anymore. I totally get that. However, it's this act of playing the victim. She has led people astray for so many years with this fairy shit and this certification. I'm not even going to get into that. These, over the oracle cards, like, how many decks does she have? Like, you can't just say, oh, well, I messed up. Oops, my bad. I'm on this other path now, so you all got to go away, or, get on board or go away. I mean, that's just, if she had done one deck, I get it. 2 decks, okay. But how many did you say she had?
She has 50 publications.
And 38 countries.
38 languages.
Yeah, that's kind of a life's body of work. And to say at D-Day, at the last minute, oops, my bad, that's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what I think that she should have done is just look, this is a new adventure here. Let me not say it to anybody. And keep my mouth shut and just do what I'm doing, and I'll just disappear on the Richter scale on the community of metaphysics. I'll just disappear. Nobody will know me. After a while, people will remember me, and then see how that goes. And then, depending on how she feels afterwards, then come out and be like, hey guys, it's been 2 years. I know you haven't heard from me, but I'm a Christian now, and that's why you haven't heard from me. And I believe that all my shit is the devil's work or whatever, blah 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 blah, yada yada yada.
It's a crazy kind of thing because after she converted and all that stuff, and after her Hellfire and Damnation video, she was still running her courses and doing workshops on her old material that she had publicly condemned, both in that ranty video and in interviews that were released by other people, so she couldn't take them down. So, including the one that I watched. So she still had those angel courses going and the fairy courses going afterwards, and people were like, excuse me, why am I paying for your devil course? What's going on here? And several of the courses were released after she had sold her ranch and were being advertised as paying for the ranch.
Wow, I didn't know that, and that's just so shady. That's so shady. I mean, it
could have just been timing. It just could have been that Hay House said this, but she really meant this, and blah blah blah, and wires got connected or crossed or something, and the timeline and got all messed up. But still, it sounds shady.
Yeah, Hay House was saying oh no, fairies are still okay, it's all right, and here she is on people's podcasts and YouTube interviews saying that fairies are demons. And then she is personally showing up to workshops and putting together new courses on material, while at the same time doing interviews saying
So wait, so like she would be on the like let's say somebody got something for like a fairy course or something, and she'd be there. What would she do? Like she would change it up into like Christian shit or something?
Yeah, she would skew it towards being more Christian. Wow. And if people were like, hey, I heard on such and such podcast you said that fairies were demonic, she would be like, oh, no, I'm not saying that they're demonic. I'm just saying that if you read, Deuteronomy XYZ, you'll learn the truth. That's all. And she wouldn't actually say what that verse said. She would just say like, oh, I'm not saying that. But if you look at this verse, you'll find out some cool information. And that verse says they're demonic.
I mean, we all know that fairies are dicks. I mean, if you really read fairy folklore, they're dicks. But they're not demons, and they're not bad. You just have to, with any trickster kind of entity, you just gotta like deal with it. But I don't know. It's just she's. There is a fine line. Like at this point, if she's not making money from this, and I suspect she is, or else she wouldn't be doing it. But there's a fine line where you have to say, okay, this was my old body of work, and I don't believe that anymore. However, but I led you down this path, and you still feel that is the right path, then go for it. You know what I mean? It's the denouncing of it that really pisses me off, because like, how many people has she brought into the metaphysical community?
Exactly. And those people are feeling horribly betrayed. And like, I get that contracts are a thing, right? Like, so like maybe she had a contract to do, 20 fairyologist workshops in a year. And then like in April she converted and all that. So she was still obligated to do 15 of them or something. But like, if you actually believe that you're damning people's souls, you break your fucking contract.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if it's not about the dollars to you anymore, then you're not going to go to jail for breaking your contract. You're going to get fined or something. Like, you just break it. She talks about how, after her conversion, she refused to accept any of the royalties, but she couldn't do anything about the rights she had sold. But, like, to me, it would have been smarter for her to save those royalties and turn around and buy out her own contracts back. Like, buy those rights back instead and be like, no, this contract doesn't expire for 7 more years. I'm going to buy it out. I'm going to buy it back. I really don't want this material out there, so I'm going to buy back this contract.
You could. She didn't do that, though.
No.
Probably didn't have the money to do it. I mean, it's like, what, 50 books and 50 courses or 50-something that she has out? And, I mean, if you think about it, she's basically Hay House's, like, cash cow, if you think about it.
She really is.
Hay House would have put it, like, super high.
And my guess is that she was needing the money, so she was, like, working both angles for a little while until she moved and had enough money. Because once her house was sold, I'm sure if she sold it for more than what she purchased it for, I mean, that's a nice little cash flow, and then she probably bought another house. But in between that, that she needed money.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has anything to do with her being spiritually driven. I think it was financially driven. She is an Aries after all, so the ends justifies the means.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like it's really insincere. Because she says that all the royalties that she's currently receiving, half of it's going to the IRS and half of it is going to charities. And then once the IRS is paid off, she's going to refuse all royalties. And it's kind of like, if your goal is just to accept it until the IRS is paid off, then why aren't you putting all of it to the IRS?
Then I have another question. Where is the money? Like, how does she eat? If she doesn't have any money from, if she's not using any of the money
she's
at all,
3
period.
Jesus books now, so.
Oh, okay, then that makes sense. Because I was like, well, where is she getting, like, how is she paying for her, like, phone? Internet? I know that, well, she did say, I was watching a video of hers a couple weeks ago, and she was like, well, she was basically saying, like, all the things that she's not doing, or, like, the truth and all that stuff, because people were, like, saying stuff that she was doing this because of this or that, and one of the things was a claim that she was doing it for the money, becoming more famous or something like that. She wasn't making money on the metaphysical side. So she's going into like Christianity, and that's what she's doing. And she's like, I make no money from my books. She's like, I make no money from any book. And it's like the joy of Jesus.
I know that's bullshit.
And that she gets that the only thing that you can download it for free, supposedly, I don't know. You can download it for free, and that you can, and if not, if you want it in a physical book, all you have to pay is just for them to create the physical book, like pay the publisher or whatever, but that she makes no money actual from it. And I'm there like, well, I wonder what, like, how are you going to pay the water in your house? I'm just saying.
Well, she published 2 through Hay House before they dissolved their relationship. That was all about Jesus and the Bible. So, and then she has one available through her website that is free for download. And then if you want to buy a physical copy, you can do that.
She just had a deck come out 6 months ago too. So, and it's a Jesus deck. Mm-hmm. But she needs to keep her stories straight, because in a video a little over a year ago, she did, and she also wrote this in her blog because I had to look it up. She states in a video that part of the reason why she converted to Christianity is because people in the metaphysical community and the New Age community are poor, and nobody worries about money, and nobody has any money. And she was tired of dealing with people that wanted payment arrangements and stuff like that. And she said that people in Christianity are not poor because they're doing God's work, and because there's a lot of money there. And she really stopped wanting to be in the New Age community because she wanted to be where the money was. And she said that she's never met a poor Christian.
Wow.
So unpack that.
Nice. Yeah, because in her video she was like, I'm not doing this for the money. And I'm like, no, just saying. Just saying.
Well, and she also has a donate button on her site. Well, because one of the things that she said in several of the interviews I watched is, I don't ask anyone for money. And I'm like, yeah, but a convenient donate button.
Well, she doesn't have to. She's got a contract. Hay House sends her money. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing, too, is like, why donate to charity? Is she the charity? She did have a charity at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ranch was a charity.
Right. So is she the charity?
Entirely possible. It's hard to believe that she would just like let her income dry up when she has those elderly parents to take care of.
Yeah, something's rotten in Denmark. Let me just tell you.
Mm-hmm. And then before the conversion too, she put up all of her like jewelry and clothing from all of her speaking arrangements on eBay to auction them off. And according to her own blog posts, she said that all of her course purchases, donations, and eBay auctions only counted for 10% of the feed bill for the animals at her ranch, which is, I mean, like, how many animals had she? She had to have thousands and thousands of animals for that to be true. Mm-hmm. I mean, animals are not that expensive if you have land. Like, the land's the expensive part.
So what I'm hearing as we're going through this is that she just mismanaged her money, and now that she mismanaged her money, now she's got to go on to a new con.
Yeah, and that's, I can understand that. I've had to teach myself a lot about money the last couple years because I did not have the benefit of learning that growing up. So I get mismanaging money, but like, just be like, I messed that up. Oopsie.
It's always, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. There's no accountability. There's not, I learned a lesson here, this is the lesson. It's well, I was in the darkness and now I'm in the light. God is the light. The end.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, from the looks of it. It's very much like the metaphysical world has left me broke, and now I'm going to the Jesus camp, and there I'll be rich, and I'll be like, and I'm like, well, if you don't have a lawyer and a good accountant, that's not going to work either. But hey,
Yeah.
have a nice day with that.
It's wild. Like, I don't know. Like, it is a true thing that people in the metaphysical, new age, spiritual, witchy community, whatever you want to call our freaking community, they don't often do things like consult with lawyers and accountants. And so, like, if you're listening to this and you want to get into the business and the community, when you start getting those book contracts and stuff, definitely hire a lawyer and accountant, because those are wonderful people to have on your side. Don't just
or take an accounting class or something like that. Just make sure that you know how to handle your money.
Yeah, don't just
It is
trust
not
publishers
easy.
to be honest with you. Because I think a lot of times in the new age community we just want to trust. So definitely don't do that. Like, do things smart. Be smart business people too. Yeah, this is just wild. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's this dishonesty and the shadiness, and what she says isn't adding up with what she's doing. And it's hard to see that. It's hard to believe that she's being honest, really. And I'm stuck on this, conversion story she has, where she talks about what really, really did it for her was she had started out joining a Pentecostal church.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my mom's Pentecostal. Have fun with that.
Right? I was like, and then several months later, she left the Pentecostal church and joined an Episcopal church instead. And then in 2017, she had a vision of Jesus and Mary and some other guy she didn't know. Who knows? Or maybe it was God himself.
Technically, she would have gone blind and deaf, I believe. That's the case.
Well, deaf if he had spoken.
That's true. Yeah.
Didn't speak, so I guess it was all right. But like in her list of A to Z things, she slams every appearance of God and Jesus in every way. There's a lot of Christian things on this list of New Age things, like the Course of Miracles, the Christ consciousness, channeling, even if it's Jesus or an angel, just everything. So I question, if having visions and stuff is demonic, then how can you trust your own vision of Jesus?
It could be a little ghosty playing at checkers on you because you're gullible.
Right?
Pretty much. I mean, look, my mom is a Pentecostal Christian, and I've gone to her church, and I've seen a lot of interesting stuff happen. And one day, and I'm going to tell you, it's a quick little story. One day I was in church with her, and I am very abstained when I'm there. I'm not rude, but I'm abstained. I'm just my way of protesting is just leaning on my mother and falling asleep on her shoulder as the preacher is doing his whole shebang, because I always end up feeling really depressed at the end of that. I'm just I feel so guilty because I'm not like this. I'm never going to be this. So yeah, okay. Not ever. Now I really don't want to. Anyway, so one day I was just I was doing my thing, and a lot of times in Pentecostal churches, the Holy Spirit will either speak to the preacher or preacher, and he'll grab somebody from the audience or what have you, from the parishioners, and he'll bring them to the front and he'll pray.
With an A, not an E.
And he picked me, and I went to the front, and he started praying on me, and I did feel something. I felt this gush of, oh gosh, it sounds like if I'm oh my God, I'm so flirty. I felt this rush of, a rush of this really pure, beautiful energy. I fell down you're supposed to. I fell down, and I just started laughing. Everything in me just started laughing. Everything was funny. And my mom was like, oh, you have the Holy Spirit in you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm there no, I just had his psychic energy that just wanted to make me happy. But okay, because he's a really good medium or a really good projector. That's okay. I wish he could bottle it. He could bottle this freaking energy. It's awesome. But at the same time, I wasn't that's it. I must be Christian. And I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to be Christian. It just means that I had an experience. He's very psychic. He's a very psychic preacher. And he just basically excuses it as being, the word of God. When really I'm like, no, it's just more that you're connecting to, source or whatever. And you're basically getting stuff from fucking the Akashic Records. Have a nice day, sir. But I'm not going to say that to you. I'm just going to let you be you because I respect that. I hope you can respect that too about me. But no. But that's my story. I'm gonna stick to that.
Because I'm sure if I came to Doreen and I was like, oh, I had this experience where I saw Jesus, she would be like, that was a demon, clearly. We were talking earlier before we started the recording about how a lot of the fundamentalist Christians have been kind of coming into spaces where we're discussing this conversion of Doreen Virtue and talking about how threatened the New Age community feels by her, that she's found the truth and she's forsaking us or whatever, which is like, okay, that's
not the case.
The weird thing is that a lot of people still don't realize that she converted, and they're still buying her materials because they're still out there from Hay House, and they're still being published by Hay House, and they're still being published all around the world because those worldwide rights are still out there. And this most recent blog post that she did, an A to Z list of New Age practices to avoid and why, is addressed to the New Age community. It's not addressed to Christians. Like, it's not us inviting ourselves over to Doreen's house. She's addressing us.
I like how she deleted all of the comments that were contrary to what she said. And she only left the comments that were praising her. Because I know people went batshit crazy and started commenting.
Oh, yeah. And she's closed comments at this point.
Well, yeah, because everybody started commenting because the thing went viral. And people were like, what? And went over there and commented. And I know a few people that are like, yeah, I commented 2 or 3 times. And every time it got blocked.
Yeah, and what I've discovered through researching stuff, even before she converted, she does not handle her own first pass commenting stuff, because she could never handle the negativity. So she, even on her own forums, in her own groups and stuff for her classes and all that kind of stuff, she's always had moderators who did the first pass approval and then passed things on to her, because she could never handle criticism or negativity aimed at her. And she even said in the interview I watched that she's extremely codependent and she desperately needs approval all the time, and she could never handle criticisms.
Really?
No offense to Heather, because Heather's a Pisces, but that sounds very Piscean.
It does sound very Piscean. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, well, I'm
that for me is like, hi, I'm a jealous, I'm a very sensitive person. Oh my god! And I'm like, well, it sounds like my ex-boyfriend who's Pisces.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure.
And she specifically used the word codependent several times during this interview. And since she was a practicing counselor, with a psychology degree and all of that, I figure she knows what she's doing with that word. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, Pisces are pretty codependent, but so are Aries. Aries need constant approval, and they need their egos brushed at all times. So. If one person doesn't agree with her, I'm sure it's a fucking catastrophe. Excuse my language, but yeah, it's going to be pretty horrible for her.
Absolutely. And that's how I actually discovered the names of her 2 kids that we mentioned earlier, is because they were the moderators who did that. At one point. Oh.
Because there's just a lot of hate at her right now. I'm sure she's not faring well. I don't know, the way that she speaks and the way that she conveys things, what I get from her intuitively is that she thought this conversion was going to go very well. The people are just going to be like, okay. And they were just going to kind of let her off the hook because she's Doreen Virtue, and in her head, she can do no wrong.
Well, and if you create this world where you're not sitting with your criticisms, if you're not hearing any of, like, if you're just sitting in this bubble where you're only ever getting input from people who adore you, then how would you think things would go? Like, she really had no frame of reference.
I could just see people opening her mail and not showing her the IRS stuff either.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
not showing her the bank account, not showing her stuff on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But if she has people that are, if she has moderators, then she has money, even if it's her kids.
You know, before they sold the ranch, that her husband Michael informed her that they had less than 3 months before they wouldn't be able to feed any of the animals or pay the mortgage payment on it.
So she didn't know.
Yeah.
So what confuses me about that is, so I'm the major breadwinner in my house, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always been that way. I've always been the major breadwinner. You're right.
Okay.
But like, I know where my money goes, like all of it, every freaking dime. You know, I am such a control freak when it comes to money because I make it.
Mm-hmm.
I know where everything is going. I know I account for everything, and if I can't account for anything, then it's a freaking crazy land here until I do.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Same.
So I guess I just don't understand how a woman who is a major breadwinner who has money coming in all the time from 50 different publications in 38 languages never looks at her bank account. How is that even possible?
It's like, you handle that. You're better at that, not me. You handle that.
I don't
I
wanna
think
look
that's
at
what
it.
it was.
Yeah.
I want to look it up. Yeah.
Don't tell me.
I want to. It's a stereotypical, like, I just want to be in my happy place, and I don't want to see like the reality of what things are. I just want to assume that they are this.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go out with the llamas right now. You handle it.
I guess I guess I don't know. I don't understand it. I guess I am. But then the fact that she got into another relationship 3 months after her husband died. Didn't he die in a car accident or something like that?
I have no idea, honestly.
Okay, I think it was a tragic death. But she went straight from that into another relationship, kind of tells me her personality, which is I don't know how to be alone. I need constant attention, and I'll just replace it with somebody else. And she said, I remember the post, because I followed her at one point, and I saw the post, and she said, I knew right away that this person was my soulmate. I knew right away that this person was meant for me, and I know that my husband, my other husband, I forgot his name, brought him to me from the afterlife.
Yeah, well, and like I said, she specifically said several times that she is codependent, using the word codependent. As someone who was a practicing psychologist, she knows what that word means.
I was curious about that because I was like, you took no time to grieve. You're not going to grieve this. You're just going to move on, and you're just going to replace the person and put those feelings, transference, basically. Mm-hmm. We're going to just transfer our old feelings to this new person, and that's how it's going to be.
Yep, and it's all of her feelings are just based on how the people around her feel about her.
Would that be like just codependency, or would that be like borderline personality disorder or something like that?
Like in the field of psychology, it's connected to a lot of things.
Would it be disassociation too?
No, that could be, that's another symptom. So like codependence is a symptom.
Okay.
Dissociation is a symptom. So it's like a feature of other things.
Mm-hmm.
So like the sniffles are symptoms of a lot of different things going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could be a lot of different things. One thing that she did say that was interesting is that she had said, and I took like a lot of notes. So she had said, where is it? Specifically, she said that the devil pounces on anyone who is vulnerable, abused, has really strong gifts, is codependent, and insecure. I guess. Yeah. I'm guessing all those words are about her.
Well, yeah, she's an Aries, so she wouldn't know how to look objectively at it.
Yeah, and so that was her specific, like, I rewound it, and I was like, okay, I want all these exact words that she said right now. Because that to me, like, isn't her general warning, which is how, like, the question was asked. But it was specifically, like, what made her feel like she was vulnerable.
The way that she makes it look is that she is the head figure in her family. She's doling out work to her children. Well, codependence has to do with control as well.
Yeah,
they
need to be the center.
You need to be the center of the attention at all times, and so you fix things for other people so that they rely on you. Probably why she has her family living with her.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because she literally can't be alone.
Well, and she has to control them.
Oh, that sounds like my mom. Jeez.
Or she has to allow them to control her. Then, if they're not telling her stuff to do, then they don't want her, and then she's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's all supposition and stuff. I'm not a medical or psychological professional. I decided to ditch that path halfway into my degree. Codependents are kind of often like the opposite of a narcissist, where a narcissist wants to be the center of attention and have everyone dancing around them. Codependents are like the matching half. They want to be the one dancing.
Right.
To prove that they're necessary and worthwhile and wanted.
Gotcha.
Right. But they require a lot of attention and validation, just like narcissists do.
Yes. Yes, but where
just in a
narcissists
different
want
way.
you dancing, codependents want to dance.
Right. But they also want to control like a narcissist, and they manipulate like a motherfucker.
They can, yeah.
Yeah, to get their way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because I put in all this work, and I made all these things for you, and how dare you treat me like that? There would be no you without me.
Yes. Yep. And they much more often will control, like, from a sub position.
Which makes sense why she got into what she did. I mean, it makes sense why she's creating oracle decks, because that fits perfectly into the profile. But this also does play into her pathology as well. I mean, this transformation does, because now she's a victim of her own circumstances. Mm-hmm. Because she was too busy helping other people with the new age stuff and being tricked, that she didn't see the true light, and she lost her money and her dignity and her soul for other people, and now she's seen the true light.
Exactly. And on that note, she did talk about, in the interview that I listened to, that in the Bible they talk about how fortune tellers are possessed when they're giving fortunes, referring to the story of the spirit of Python, who is a slave girl fortune teller. And Doreen said in the interview that she identifies with the slave girl, and she feels that event planners and publishers and course creators, etc., were using her the way the masters were using the slave girl, just as a cash cow, and making her perform for money so that they could make money off of her. Yeah. And, like, still, part of me feels like, even though she's kind of, like, coming at us and saying that we're going to hell for all of these reasons. I mean, not the first time I've been explained to in detail all the reasons I'm going to hell. But I still find myself feeling kind of sorry for her that she, never had the independence or self-confidence to read her own contracts and take control of her own life. So at the very least, let her serve as a cautionary tale. Don't be a Doreen Virtue.
Yeah.
I don't feel sorry for her. I don't. Because she is an empowered woman. She had the choice. This is what she chose. I don't think she's a victim of her circumstances. I think she's a victim of her own ego and her own desire to please. And change lanes because the money is in the Bible. The money isn't in the New Age. And she knew that. And so she had to convince herself into this new lane. It's not something that happens overnight. This is her own indoctrination. It's her own self-convincing. As she was doing it to herself, she could have taken a fucking minute and done it to her followers and said, hey, I'm questioning this now. Hey, let's go on the ride together. If you're questioning this too, great. We can all do it. And this is what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm going through. And I'm going to these places and I don't know if I believe this anymore, but I'm under contract and I need to teach these things. So I'm going to be really upfront and honest with you about it, and we're going to go. And if you really believe this and you really want to see me as a teacher, great, come. But if you don't, then don't. You know what I mean? Like, just put it out there and let the chips fall where they may. That, to me, if she had done it that way, I would have been like, yes, Jesus, you go. You go, girl. But the way she did it was so cunning and manipulative and so trickster and so everything that she is against. She became the thing that she preaches about.
Yes. Well, and like I said, like, part of me feels bad for her. The rest of me doesn't.
I feel the same. I feel kind of bad for her, but at the same time, I'm like, you're a grown woman. You can make your own goddamn decisions.
Yeah, I'm super judgy. I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. Like, if there had been talk about, like, the transformative process and stuff, that would have been, like, kind of a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah.
Well, give your followers, give the community a chance to catch up with you. Give them the benefit of the doubt. It's kind of like, it would be like if she got a sex change and she suddenly showed up as a man. Be like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing. It's just and I think people reacting in this, like, very negative kind of way, this very shocked kind of way, not because they're pissed at her, but more because it is such a betrayal. We react very strongly, but that doesn't matter who you are. You're going to have a strong reaction to it. And she acts as if she doesn't understand why the strong reaction, but she didn't let anybody in on the joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one thing I was talking with someone earlier today, and, like, I think some people kind of miss it when talking about, like, you know, spirituality and New Age and religions in the abstract. But when you're talking about this, you're talking about the foundations of people's reality. And,
oh, yeah.
Like, if you really thought that these materials you were publishing were damning people's eternal souls to hell, then maybe you should have stopped teaching those classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some fucked up shit. Like, not just betraying them by saying, like, all the things I've been teaching you for years I suddenly discovered are bad, but, like, I continued teaching them knowing full well I was condemning you to eternal damnation.
Right, because she needed the money.
Right. Yeah.
What does that say about her teachings now?
Yeah, like, how much can I trust her now? Like, how much is she willing to just throw me under the bus for dollars?
Right.
Like, obviously my soul isn't off limits.
No, I can see that as like the betrayal aspect to it, but at the same time, it's like I'm just like, see, for me, it's like, I'm not saying that I like her stuff. I don't, but I'm not really into all that fluffy bunny. Not, excuse my French for saying fluffy bunny, but I'm not with it. But if that was your thing and it resonated to you when you read it about her, of like what she was writing about, who cares? If, at least the way that I'm seeing it, who gives a shit that she is saying that, oh, it's not real, it's like this, it's evil, it's blah, 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 blah. That's just her perception now. But at the time, from what I understand, she did the research. She did her own thing. And if that's how if you resonate with whatever it was that she wrote, then resonate with it. Who cares? Make it your own. That's how I would see it. Like, if one of my favorite authors that was pagan all of a sudden became Christian, I'd still do. And if I added any of their workings into my practice, I wouldn't stop. It wouldn't be like, well, it's not real anymore because they're not pagan anymore. I'll be like, who cares? Like, I don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Because the work is what matters to me, not the person and what they are doing now in their lives. Yeah. Now, if I had like an emotional connection to that person, that's a different story. But for me, it's like, you wrote this at this time, you did the research, you believed in this, and that's why I may or may not, if it resonates with me, I will add this to my practice. I will add this to my belief. But just because you don't believe in it now doesn't mean that it's not real. Doesn't mean that it doesn't resonate to me. Doesn't mean that if I use it when I'm doing magic or anything of that kind, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work. But I can also see the fact that she became like the Beyonce, I said it in my video, the Beyonce of metaphysics, of like airy fairy metaphysics. And I get that. I get that she was like the poster girl for it. And I get that I guess that especially for people that are new to it or are still sort of like she was their go-to girl, I can understand that being the betrayal. Because at that point, it's not the material that you love, it's the person who wrote it that you love.
Let's not really conflate Doreen and Beyonce, because Beyonce has like real skill and real talent. She knows her stuff.
Very true.
Because frankly, Doreen Virtue's material isn't really based on any kind of historical fact at all. Like, she didn't do a lot of research. Or the stuff she wrote about angels and fairies and mermaids and unicorns is like vaguely based on some cartoons that were vaguely based on historical information.
Her last stuff got kind of wonky too, like that Earth Realms stuff.
Yeah, it was
that video series, which is like I have it. I didn't buy it. Somebody gave it to me. And I was all like, what is this? Like, I watched one video and I'm all, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah.
Like, and I believe some far out shit. You know what I mean? Like, like I watched Ancient Aliens. And I'm all like, plausible. Ancient Aliens is plausible. Okay. It's like so far fetched. But you tell me about some Earthrealm shit and I'm like, I don't know if I believe this. And just the way that it was produced. And I don't know. She did some really far out stuff. But on the other hand, I do have some of her decks, and I'm not going to get rid of them. And I'm keeping that Ascendant Masters deck just as a fuck you to her because she hates that deck now. And I'm all, that's my favorite deck now of all.
And like, I have decks where I'm like, where I've read the books that go with the cards, and I'm like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Like, I'm just going to do my own thing. I love the artwork, but your text is terrible.
Yeah,
so I'm just gonna
play with them,
and I'm just gonna make up my own thing.
That's exactly what I do with Doreen Virtue decks. I never read the books.
I never read the books ever.
Yeah,
I don't have the decks, but I just don't read the books.
Or the Oracle cards. I'm like, I'll just make it what I want to make it.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's your personal property. You can do with it whatever you want. So, you can use cards whatever way you want to. The reader's always right. But yeah, so like, I'm not too worried. But like, the people who were really following her and stuff, to have like what was essentially their guru turn around and be like, if you keep these things that I've taught you, then you're going to hell and I can't help you. And I continued to teach you them in classes after I knew I was sending you to hell.
Like, talk about abuse. That's some mind abuse right there. That's some spiritual abuse.
There's something I just remembered in her blog post that she posted. One of the things that she said was about yoga, that yoga is all good and fine. She said something along those lines, but that yoga is actually like from a particular goddess. And the thing with me, like being a pagan or a witch, I'm very much like, that's cool. Like, I was just like, oh, cool. More reason to practice yoga. Thank you. I didn't think of anything negative at all whatsoever. But obviously for somebody who isn't, that would, that might be a little bit of a red flag. But the thing that registered in my brain was, well, so what? Who cares? Yoga is still good for you. It's good for your body. It's like, what? I don't get it. Like, what's the problem here?
It's very confusing.
Yeah. And the whole, like, the yoga poses are each directed to a specific pagan god or goddess.
That's not true.
And completely not.
I guess you're twisting the meaning, or grabbing stuff that doesn't even exist in the meaning and just adding to it.
So, like, the whole meditating without God thing is, presents the idea that meditation is just completely emptying your mind, which is one of my big pet peeves, because that's not a thing that you can actually do.
Exactly.
The mind cannot be empty. That's not a thing humans can do. So, you
can quiet your mind, but you can't empty your mind.
No. So, like, just presenting the idea that New Age meditation involves emptying your mind, like, no, that's false. You literally can't do that.
Which makes me wonder if she even knew what she was ever talking about, because...
And that's another thing that's very frustrating. It's like, if she was into metaphysics, if she was part of the community, what the hell, dude? Like, you know what you're talking is shit. She wouldn't even have to, like, she shouldn't have even had to have gone to the website and checked out, like, oh, meditation. Let me see what this says. It's like, no, you know what meditation is, Doreen. You should know. You write books about metaphysics. It's so the fact that she had to go to like a website to find out answers about the metaphysical world, even though she's been in the metaphysical community for what 20, 30 years or some shit like that, and that she had to like, and that she had to go and find this out on a website. Are you serious? Like, come on.
Right.
Like, it makes me just go like, what were you smoking, woman, every time that you wrote a book? What were you, like, seriously? Like, were you like, you know something, that sounds really cute. I'm going to just add that. Let's just say it's like a very ancient practice. But no, it's just cute because it has glitter in it. I don't know. What?
Yeah, absolutely. The divination being defined as the attempt to obtain knowledge of the future so you can be reassured. Like,
That's
not a good definition.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. That's not what it is at all.
Yeah. For crystals, in the New Age, people are encouraged to worship God's creations, such as crystals. I don't worship crystals. Do you worship crystals?
I don't.
No. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who worships crystals.
Yeah, never. I've never met a person that's like, this is Tom. He's a god. He's a crystal. he's a quartz crystal. I saw him and I knew that he was just my creator. I'm like, what?
Right?
The hell? Like, nobody does that. No metaphysical person does that unless they just want to be laughed at. Nobody does that.
Right? Like, I do know people who think that there are, like, spirits in crystals, but they don't worship them.
Yeah.
They usually see them as peers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
or helpers.
Mentors, but, like, not...
Yeah. God.
Yeah, not a god to worship. So that's, like, just reading through some of these, they don't... she obviously doesn't even know what she's talking about.
They're just such skewed versions of, I don't know. They're just very skewed.
That's what I was looking, that was the word that I was looking for, that I was trying to say. But yeah, very skewed.
Yeah, it's very, very confusing. And she's got her own angel cards on the list, which is nice. Shout out to yourself. Right on. So, I can't believe the peace sign is here.
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
This is completely false, though.
What'd you say about the peace sign?
The sign is an upside down and broken cross, symbolizing the rebellion against Christianity. You ask the guy who came up with it, it's the air traffic control guy for, like, under distress.
There's no correlation there. I'm not seeing the correlation.
Yeah, it's like really trying to, like, for more information about the satanic connections of the peace sign. Like,
she's just rewriting history at this point.
Yeah, well, that's, please read gotquestions.org, peace sign. So, like, she didn't even do her own research on that one.
But does she really believe it? Because, I mean, I don't know.
She put it on her blog, at DoreenVirtue.com. So I hope she believes this stuff. I don't know. It's hard to believe, though, because, like, with all the shady shit she's been doing, it's hard to believe it's anything more than a marketing scheme.
She should, like, some of the things, like what Maria said about yoga, I mean, some of the things on there, she should know better. Fairies is on there, I'm sure. I don't remember the whole list. I remember reading the blog and going, laughing, like, the whole way down. Couldn't take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But,
yeah,
what else is on there?
Unicorns have pretty much the same entry, like, Satan likes to hide behind glitter, so be really careful. Yeah, also drag queens and all sorts of other really fun people, like belly dancers. Glitter is for everyone.
I think so. I don't understand that. The list was so preposterous, and it was such a passive, aggressive, I'm not judging you, but I fully am judging you right now moment. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because that is a phrase she says over and over and over again, like through her videos and her blog posts and her FAQ and her about her on her website. over and over and over again.
But you're going to hell if you do these things, so we're completely judging you.
We are not hating on anyone, nor judging you. God loves you, and He wants the best for you, and so do we.
So, Doreen, if you're listening to this, I'll send it to you. Don't worry.
Don't worry, I'll hook you up.
Don't worry. I'm not judging you right now.
Okay.
I'm not condemning you. I'm just trying to teach you a lesson.
But remember to phrase it in a way that her handlers will let her see it.
I just don't have anything nice to say. I was trying to figure out how to do that. I don't really have anything nice to say, and it's not that I don't. Well, okay, I just don't want to. And that's the thing, is that I just... People like this are false prophets. They are swindlers. They are the charlatan in the revivalist tent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, they are conning folk, and I just don't like that. And that's not what my code of ethics is about. That's not how I live. Yeah, I've done some shady shit. Yeah, I'm not a light worker.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that half of the stuff in the New Age community is bullshit. However, you do you, you know? Like, that's just my path, and I'm going to... I live by my code of ethics, and I feel like I'm doing a good job, so nobody's going to tell me any different. And I don't expect anyone else to bend to my will or to my code of ethics. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think, like, for me, like, the thing that I really just want to, like, emphasize here is, like, I don't know, if we take Doreen at her word about her experiences and her feelings and blah, blah, blah. Like, look at the mistakes she's made where she just let other people run her life. She didn't read her contract. She let other people manage her finances. She wasn't listening to people in her own communities. She was having everything filtered. Like, don't let that be you. Like, be real, interact with your real world, be in charge of your own life, like, interact with things, be involved. Like, don't just let everyone filter everything for you, and don't just listen to what they say. Like, do your own real research and stuff. And then, like, if we don't take her at her word, then follow your gut on this stuff. Like, you need to check in with yourself and see how you feel about things. Like, and don't just listen to us either. Like, we'll be giving you a ton of links for you to follow around, and you can check those out and do your own readings and, you know, make your own decisions about things. We're just sharing our perspective on it, and we've got some perspective for sure. So, like, really, don't bury your head in the sand here.
We have opinions. Don't let Doreen Virtue be your power. Empower yourself. Like, think about what you want and what your code of ethics is, and think about how you live your life, and hopefully you're living your life by the beat of, you know, your own drum. And she is too. And she didn't care about anybody when she moved forward. She told everybody after the fact, which means that she wasn't thinking about her career or anything. She was thinking about the shit show that she created, and that's it.
It's pretty much the same for me. It's just like, be your own person. Don't, like, if you didn't like what she did or something like that, you feel distraught about it, don't. That's her game. That's her thing. If that's what she wants, that's what she wants. And if you love her books and her all her stuff, then keep loving them. Keep using them. It doesn't change the fact that they still mean something to you. It just means it doesn't mean anything to her anymore, or not what it used to her. So let her be her. Let her have her little shit show, and just do you.
Like, that's a wrap. We're just hoping that, like, people aren't too wounded by this Doreen Virtue thing, because that's my real concern, is that I know a lot of people were really, really hurt by it. We mostly find it amusing, but my frustration with the whole thing is how badly people have been hurt and betrayed by it. And so I just really don't, I just don't want that to be a thing. Like, let's turn this into a learning experience and not have it happen again.
Definitely.
Let's realize that we are more powerful than that. Let's realize that we have more say in our own lives. I think that's the lesson.
Yeah. So this is Nathara, Heather, and Maria talking about the false prophetess, Doreen Virtue. Take care of yourselves, y'all, and have a great whatever you're having right now.
An aneurysm? No. Sorry.
Whatever, right? Like, peace.